Good afternoon. The access arm has just been taken away from the Space Shuttle Columbia, and Columbia will fly in 6 minutes. Well, there was a rumor earlier on that they might have gone a little earlier today, but Dave Scott of Apollo 9 and Apollo 15 said that was impossible. He's here listening to them, and they're going in 6.
Yes, it'd be very difficult with all the people involved to try and move the time up. Everybody has to go on time.
And everything seems to be going on time. There is the access arm pulling away now, and you can see far beyond Cape Canaveral.
T-minus 5 minutes and counting. We have had a go for APU start. APU start is in work. This is a start sequence. The final chase plane is taken off from Patrick Air Force Base. T-minus 4 minutes, 42 seconds and counting.
Geoffrey Archer, the computers are talking to each other today.
They seem to be. They seem to have sorted out that problem, thankfully, yes. It seemed to be that timing issue. They couldn't get in sync with each other.
Once we get the APU start, we have a total of 12 minutes of hydrazine supply for running the APUs prior to a liftoff. Everything going very smoothly in this count. The APU start is complete. T-minus 4 minutes, 10 seconds and counting. As preparation for main engine ignition, the main fuel valve heaters have been turned off. T-minus 3 minutes, 57 seconds and counting. The final helium purge on the shuttle main engine has been started in preparation for engine start. The liquid oxygen replenish system has been turned off in preparation for pressurization of the tanks for the launch. T-minus 3 minutes, 35 seconds and counting. The elevon, speed brake, and rudder are being moved through a pre-programmed pattern to assure that they'll be ready for use in flight. T-minus 3 minutes, 20 seconds and counting. The shuttle is now on internal power. However, the fuel cells are still receiving their fuels from the ground support system for one more additional minute. Coming up on T-minus 3 minutes, T-minus 3 minutes and counting. The engine gimbal, our movement check is underway to assure they're ready for flight control. T-minus 2 minutes, 52 seconds. The LOX valve on the external tank has been closed and pressurization has begun. After the tank is pressurized, the hold capability is limited to 3 minutes, 36 seconds. T-minus 2 minutes, 40 seconds and counting. The fuel cell ground supply of oxygen and hydrogen has been terminated and the vehicle is using its onboard supply. T-minus 2 minutes, 25 seconds and counting. T-minus 2 minutes, 15 seconds. The pressure in the LOX tank is at flight pressure. Coming up on just 2 minutes away from launch. T-minus 2 minutes mark and counting. The liquid hydrogen vent valve has been closed and flight pressurization is underway. T-minus 1 minute, 50 seconds and counting. Chuck Hannon has just said smooth sailing, baby, to astronauts John Young and Bob Crippen. T-minus 1 minute, 35 seconds and counting. T-minus 1 minute, 20 seconds and counting. We can see the purges of the main engines as we prepare for ignition. T-minus 1 minute, 10 seconds and counting. Liquid hydrogen tank is at flight pressure. T-minus 1 minute mark and counting. The firing system for the sound suppression water will be armed in just a couple seconds from now. It has been armed. T-minus 45 seconds and counting. T-minus 40 seconds and counting. The development flight instrumentation recorders are on. T-minus 35 seconds. We're just a few seconds away from switching to the redundant sense sequencer. T-minus 27 seconds. We have gone for redundant set sequencer start. T-minus 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15, 14, 13, T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. We've gone for main engine start. We have main engine start. Liftoff of America's first space shuttle. And the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Just gone by his major systems check, and everything appears to be working extremely well.
434, Mike, QRE. Roger.
By now they're through the maximum dynamic pressure, one of the toughest parts of the mission. And the next major call you'll hear is a preparation.
Columbia, Houston, you're going throttle up. Roger, go throttle up.
The throttles came down. They reduced power to go through this area of maximum dynamic pressure. And he's back up at full power again. And the next thing you'll hear is a call for a go for separation. That's the point at which the solid rocket boosters will be separated.
Roger, Columbia, on the nice ride. You're lofting a little bit. You'll probably be slightly high at staging. 1 minute 45 seconds coming up on go, no, go. Columbia, you're negative seats.
Negative seats
that
means
call up
that,
says that Columbia, the altitude is too high for ejection seat use. Columbia, your go for SRB step.
Okay, these will be the separation of the large solids, and there they go.
4 seconds, standing by for SRB step confirmation. Roger on the SIP, Columbia.
So the
Mark, 2 minutes 20 seconds. Confirm solid rocket booster SIP.
everything's going extremely well at this point, right on time.
Mark, 2 minutes 30 seconds. On-board guidance is converging as programmed. Columbia is now steering for its precise window in space for main engine cutoff. Mark, 2 minutes 40 seconds. Columbia now 39 nautical miles in altitude, 42 nautical miles downrange. Mark, 2 minutes 50 seconds. Columbia, you're looking a little hot. All your calls will be a little early. Okay. Columbia now has 2-engine rotor capability. Good here. Mark, 3 minutes. Young and Crippen really moving out now. Velocity now reading 6,200 feet per second.
The next major call will be at 4 minutes.
15 seconds. Columbia now 51 nautical miles in altitude, 66 nautical miles downrange. Velocity now reading 6,500 feet per second.
Well, that was the picture of the Columbia. It's not the latest picture. They had just to freeze it there because I think one of the cameras up top isn't working properly. But so far, it's a good liftoff.
Yes, it's been excellent. The trajectory is a little bit off, but you always expect a few dispersions. But in general, I'd say they're 99.5% on the mark.
And for a new machine.
And for a new machine. They just got a press to MECO, which means continue on to the main engine cutoff, so they've gone through most of their difficult parts.
Now, when the main engine cuts off, they've still got to use the maneuvering system to get into the proper orbit. Is that right?
Yes, yes. We'll hear their call here.
Flying forward, coming up on negative return. Press for MECO. Roger, press for MECO.
Press for MECO means continue on to the main engine cutoff, and that puts them in very good position at this point.
Mark, 4 minutes 8,
Columbia, stand by for negative return. Mark, negative return.
Negative return means that now they will not have to go back to the launch site, but they can continue on.
So they now do one orbit anyway.
Yes.
Capcom Brandenstein, Columbia now committed to space travel. Young and Crippen can no longer turn around and return to the launch site.
Columbia, Houston, we're showing both ohms PT transducers off scale high.
Mark, 4 minutes, 45 seconds. The flash evaporator is activated on board to cool Columbia.
Off scale low here.
Okay, sounds like they have an indicator problem.
Roger, stand by. We'll keep an eye on it.
Mark, 4 minutes, 56 seconds. Columbia is lofting early in the second stage, is now being taken out of the trajectory as programmed. Columbia now 74 nautical miles in altitude, 181 nautical miles down.
Nominal there, man. What a view.
They've just pitched down so they can see the horizon out the front window.
5 minutes, 15 seconds. Columbia now 75 nautical miles in altitude, 202 nautical miles downrange. Velocity now reading 11,000 feet per second.
We're trying to hold with them, but we can't keep your
A
picture.
status check and mission control by Flight Director Neil Hutchinson.
Indicator problems can come at any time.
5:30, Miko, 8+34.
That says that
Mark, 5 minutes, 40 seconds. That call up from Capcom Brandenstein says that Columbia's trajectory navigation and engine performance look good.
Columbia, reading you loud and clear.
Okay, you're clear, a little weak. Mark, 5 minutes, 55
And
seconds.
Columbia, we just switched over Bermuda. Boy, should be getting better here in a second.
Okay, that's good. 6 minutes, Columbia now 76 nautical miles in altitude, 280 nautical miles downrange, velocity now reading 13,000 feet per second.
Columbia, Houston, could we have the cryo heaters, please? And Columbia, your single engine rota.
Mark, 6 minutes, 25 seconds. That call up from Capcom Brandenstein says that if 2-engine failure occurred, Columbia is capable of an emergency landing at Rotor Naval Air Station, Spain. Mark, 6 minutes, 40 seconds. Columbia pitching over now, diving to increase velocity, decrease altitude, giving Columbia her most favorable attitude. Columbia now 72 nautical miles in altitude, 373 nautical miles downrange. Velocity now reading 16,400 feet per second.
they need about 25,000 feet per second to get into orbit, so he's getting close.
Standing by for a single engine Preston Miko call up from Capcom Brandenstein.
That call will mean they can get into orbit with only one engine out of the three they have.
So that's an engineering triumph.
Yeah.
Columbia, your single engine, press per Miko.
Mark, 7 minutes, 20 seconds. That report says that Young and Crippen can achieve orbital insertion even if two engines go out. Mark, 7 minutes, 30 seconds. Columbia, 67 nautical miles in altitude, 485 nautical miles downrange. G-force is building for Young and Crippen now up to 3 Gs.
And they'll reach about a maximum of 5 Gs before they get into orbit.
Mark, 7
And
minutes,
there's the cape at their left, and we'll be
Yes.
back.
Columbia's main engine slowly being throttled back now. Should be throttled at 65% at 6 seconds before main engine cutoff. Status check in the control center.
Columbia, Houston, your go at 8.
Mark, 8 minutes, 4 seconds.
Looking good.
30 seconds to go.
Columbia now 63 nautical miles in altitude, 606 nautical miles downrange. Mark, 8 minutes, 15 seconds. Columbia now 63 nautical miles in altitude, 650 nautical miles downrange. Standing by now for main engine cutoff.
Launch control looked happy.
Oh, yes, very.
Miko 25670 up at 220 feet per second.
Perfect.
Roger,
Perfect.
Columbia, Miko.
Confirmed shutdown. Columbia, the gem of this new ocean, now in space, not yet in orbit. Now standing by now for external tank separation.
Their parameters that Bob Crippen read out were very good.
Roger, we confirm the SEP, Columbia.
They have separated from the
9
external
minutes,
tank.
3 seconds.
And that falls down in the engine ocean somewhere.
Separation.
No, that will, yes, eventually,
Columbia
yes.
now performing an evasive maneuver, moving below and beyond and translating to the north of the external tank. Young should see it moving away out his window.
We should get a call from Young when he sees the tank, as they have now separated. And he makes a maneuver to get away from it so that when they relight their engines, the smaller engines, they won't run into it.
9 minutes 40 seconds, go no-go status check and mission control for the first ohms burn.
That's the first burn of the smaller engines.
Columbia, Houston, your go for nominal ohms 1, and for APU shutdown on time.
That means their orbit is very good, no corrections are needed.
55 seconds. Columbia now maneuvering to its ohms 1 burn attitude. Using the 26,000-pound thrust engine, the ohms 1 will be posigrade, moving Columbia forward and higher on her flight path, placing Columbia in orbit. Standing by for ignition, 10 minutes, 22 seconds.
So with the Columbia well on her way, looking perfect, you were saying, Dave?
Oh yes, I think the numbers that Bob Crippen read down to us when they got into orbit were just excellent, just very, very good.
We'll just see the liftoff again. Wouldn't go on Friday, but went today as if there'd never been any problem at all. Good evening. From the Space Shuttle Columbia, now high over the Pacific, silence. It's changing itself from a spacecraft into an aircraft, its surface glowing red hot as it re-enters the atmosphere. And it's so enveloped in electrified gases that no radio signal can get in or come out from it for the moment. But in 6 or 7 minutes, Young and Crippen should be clear, and we'll hear if it's all been a success. Well, now, this was the last exchange of signals before the blackout began.
We're 50 seconds from LOS. Everything looks perfect going over the hill. Nice and easy does it, John. We're all riding with you.
I thought it was caught in here. I thought it was caught in here.
10 seconds to LOS. We'll see you about Mach 12.
So, with John Young complaining that it's hot in here, inside his spacesuit, of course, pressurized now for the re-entry. However, they were saying a little earlier on the crew looked good, and one of them said, well, you haven't seen us lately. Well, these are the familiar pictures now of them cavorting about in space. That's Young in the foreground. I don't think he's actually talking to Vice President Bush on the telephone. That would be a little disrespectful. But they plainly have enjoyed the flight, and it plainly is a much more capacious craft than anything before. And there is Young with the spectacles on his nose, going about his work as a space pilot. And now, Geoffrey?
Well, Columbia re-entered the Earth's atmosphere halfway across the Pacific Ocean, coming towards the end of what would have been her 37th orbit. She hit the atmosphere about 77 miles up and started the long high-speed glide towards the Edwards Air Force Base in California. This is now her moment of greatest danger. Slowing down from 16,000 miles an hour, the friction of the air is heating up her underside to temperatures around 1,500 degrees centigrade. Her protective tiles, designed to be tough enough for 100 flights, are being tested at this moment for the very first time. Well, NASA mission controllers have expressed continuing confidence that no vital tiles fell off during the launch, even though some are missing from 2 engine pods at the tail. They could have been knocked off by an unexpected shockwave on liftoff, but mission scientists have calculated that stresses on the tail pods should be less on descent. But whether the vital heat shield underneath is doing its job, we won't know for certain until the end of this radio blackout.
And now from the man who really does know what re-entry is like, Dave Scott of Apollo 9 and 15. What's particularly complicated for the pilot now?
Well, the most complicated thing is his transition from a spacecraft to an airplane. And as he goes through the environment in which you pick up more and more air molecules, the small rocket engines that normally control the attitude are superseded by aerodynamic surfaces, like an airplane. At this point, there is a possibility of conflict between the two, and it may be a very interesting control problem for John Young if the conflict does exist.
But he's about the most experienced man in space now.
Oh yes, John is indeed. By now he is the most experienced.
Well now, what margin for error is there in all this?
Well, we have quite a bit of margin as we come in because the ship is built to produce lift as it comes through the atmosphere and install a certain amount of energy as we come out of blackout so that we can land someplace near Edwards Air Force Base. This energy that's accumulated in the vehicle is dissipated as John Young will do some maneuvers before he makes his landing.
So the times that we're giving about when they can come through the atmosphere possibly could be wrong. I mean, they could be quicker, they could take longer.
That's right. It depends on this uncertain area between space and the atmosphere, in which we really don't know a lot about it.
Well, still waiting, for, of course, for the radio contact, but it's possible that radar may pick them up before any radio signal comes through.
That's true. The sheath of gases around the vehicle provide a nice target for radar, and if they come in range, we may get a contact by radar before we hear voice contact.
Well, we'll be listening for that. Now, when you're actually cut off from anything, you can't hear Houston talking to you. What's it like?
Well, they're very busy at this point of time, and it's really not necessary to transmit any communications because the automatic system is flying it, John Young is monitoring it, and everybody's doing their job. The control center in Houston really has no role to play at this time.
There's no way of getting around this blackout problem. I mean, is this going to dog spacecraft for all time?
Yes, I believe it will. We tried some experiments during the Gemini program to eject a layer of material to eliminate it, but we were unsuccessful, so we live with it.
2 minutes, 53 seconds. It's counting down to acquisition of signal at the Buckhorn tracking station at Edwards. That's the first place where we will get telemetry. If Vandenberg's successful in bringing back up their system, we may get C-band radar ahead of that contact, ahead of that time. But we would not get voice communications or telemetry prior to about 2.5 minutes.
So 2.5 minutes, he's saying. Are you conscious of the enormous heat all around you as you come through and re-enter?
Yes, you're conscious not so much from the temperature, but from the fact that there will be a glow over the windshield as they come in, and they'll definitely see this sheath of ionized gases.
We should be able to talk to the crew aboard Columbia.
Well, now, if things are going well...
Chase, this is Houston. You can anticipate getting a Mach 9 call. Over.
There's one copy, Houston.
Houston out.
That's the chase planes which are up in the air already.
Yes.
Now, if things have gone well, Young should be in control of the craft himself by now, is that right? It should have become a glider.
No, it's a glider, but it's still under automatic control until he gets to about 35,000 feet over the landing site at Edwards Air Force Base, and then he'll take over manually.
There's one of the chase planes up in the air. We hope to get pictures from one of them in due course. That'll be the first picture of them coming in. We'll hear NASA's words.
Mark 1 minute.
Chase, stand by for the Mach 9, 9,700 feet per second call.
There's one. AOS.
Stand by. Mark.
In automatic flight control.
And Chase, disregard the Mach 9 call. We'll give it again shortly.
We'll go. Showing an altitude of 106. 2 C-band radar contact showing an altitude of 165,000 feet.
That says they're
Range
close
to go
nominal.
410 nautical miles.
Stand by for mark on 9,700 feet per second.
Hello, Houston. Columbia's here.
Hello, Columbia. Houston's here. How do you read?
Land clear, and we're doing Mach 10.3 at 180 AS.
And we couldn't agree more, John. Your state vector's good. We've got good data in-house.
Okay, it looks to me like the yellow over D is nominal.
The L over D is a lift for landing.
And that looks like Columbia
Mach
coming through.
9 at 9,700 feet per second.
Columbia, you got perfect energy, perfect ground track.
Roger that.
Oh, that's excellent.
Columbia now 9 times the speed of sound. Flight dynamics
And John,
officer
we're
says
showing
he's
you rolling
perfect.
right. Looking good.
Right, normal roll.
With the perfect energy, he should be able to touch down exactly
Rolling
where he
now.
wants to.
Chase will be on time.
Okay.
Says the chase airplanes will be able to join up okay.
52,000 feet, range 211 miles, speed Mach 8.8.
So here it comes, 80 tons
Roll reversal
of
complete.
glider. That's quite a job.
It's quite a job, but I think we understand it quite well,
Columbia, we
especially
showing
now
out
that we're
of
through this phase.
151K now. 8.4 Mach, looking good.
Roger that, Dan. I got a solid TACAN locked on TACAN 2 and 3.
Roger that, Crip. We're looking.
That's just an indication on the panel of the pilot side.
All 3 APUs hanging in there, looking good.
Roger that. We concur.
We have a live television picture from the optical tracker at Anderson Peak. Crossing the coastline
Columbia,
now.
we show you crossing the coast now.
Roger that. We concur. 141,000 feet. Range
And Columbia,
240
we
miles.
like the TACANs. Go ahead and take them.
Okay, going in.
He puts his TACAN in so he has his range to the touchdown point.
Crew now incorporating tactical air navigation system data into the spacecraft. Mach 7. 135,000 feet, range 221 miles.
Columbia,
Dead on the ground
very
track.
quiet to it.
Well, let's go out in here, too. What a way to come to California.
Now they enter a phase where they're very familiar as they get closer to the landing
Columbia, you're out
site.
of 130K now on the tracking. 6.4 Mach, looking good.
Roger that. I agree with those numbers.
So they say on board,
And Columbia, your nav state with TACAN is perfect.
Roger that.
they say on board the numbers look the same as the radar on the ground.
24,000 feet. Range 177 miles.
That's why they keep on saying perfect.
Right, it's just a phenomenal reentry so far.
And John, we're seeing near zero aileron trim.
We're seeing 210. Yeah, less than that now.
That says
Roger
it's
that, out of 119K, 5.5 Mach.
119,000 feet,
All flight controllers giving perfect report.
and the aerodynamic control surfaces are working well.
So the tiles work well too.
Tiles work well, controls worked well, everything's worked well to this point.
GPS, hydrogen purge in progress.
Roger that, out of 112K, 4.8 Mach.
Range 130.
Just in a row.
John Young rolling using manual control now.
We see DLAS 21 degrees.
Roger that. Looking good.
He's burning off some excess energy now, so he'll hit his point over the airfield at precisely the right place.
He's got quite a bit of mileage on the runway.
Range 112.
Yes, he has a comfortable margin, and he's practiced it many, many times on this runway.
Now there could be a little sonar boom as it comes in. Wonder if
Yes,
it-
he said a
Roll
mild
reversal complete.
shock wave
Control
will hit.
good.
Columbia, we see roll reversal complete. Control looks good.
Ropes
He's now fairly well established on his glide path.
And you're starting to get ammonia cooling now.
Roger, we can try.
And Columbia, you're out of 100K with positive C. Looking good.
His energy's correct. He's at 100,000 feet. And he's almost to the point where the chase planes will find him.
Beautiful. Below 100,000. Mach 3.
Okay, probes out. And air data looks pretty good for here.
He just put his airspeed indicator out.
Good. We're looking at him, and you're coming right down the chute.
Now he has an indicator telling how fast he's going in the air, just like an airplane.
Range 73 miles.
Columbia, we're go for air data. You're out of 89K, 2.8 Mach.
The air data will be the airspeed indication, and the chase planes will read those airspeeds to the Columbia for confirmation as soon as they join together.
Roger that, we're looking.
Okay, take in failure.
TACAN failure, his range, but that's not really a problem.
They all look very relaxed suddenly at Houston.
Roll reversal to the right.
Columbia, we see you coming right, looking good.
Okay, Joe, I'll have time to send the talk back home those landing gear, hydraulic isolation valves. They look okay to you?
Okay, Chris, they all look good to us.
Roger that.
It's landing gear indicators. The landing gear are up now, and of course they'll have to put them down just before they touch down.
What a picture.
We now have a live television picture from the long-range optics at Brighton Flight
Columbia, you're
Research
coming
Center.
right down the track. The tracking data, nav data, and pre-plan trajectory are all one line on our plot boards here.
Roger, we can correct.
That's amazing.
Well, the crowd's
Out
right
of
at Edwards
70,000 feet at
Air
Mach
Force Base.
1.8. Range 42 miles.
Columbia, we show you very slightly high in altitude, coming down nicely, and the test is to go to off.
Most of the landing will be done visually as he approaches Edwards Air Force Base, so the range and the altitude are important, but John Young
1.3 at
could
58,000
land it without that if he
feet.
had to.
Range 33 miles.
By now you can see the dry lake bed, and
Out
you
of
might say,
56K, looking good.
okay, he's about 6 minutes from touchdown right now, and he's in an area where he can land it visually if he loses complete radio contact and complete instrumentation except for his airspeed, which they just checked, and it works fine.
And he's a cool
Mach
customer.
1 at 51,000 feet. Range 28 miles.
Columbia, you're going subsonic now, out of 50K, looking good.
Roger that.
Now he goes beyond the field, doesn't he? Loops
Yes.
round and comes back.
Yes, he loops around, and if you look careful, it looks like the chase
Everything
planes are there
looking
now. And we should soon get a
Columbia,
television
you're approaching
picture from the
half
chase
now,
plane.
Right on the money.
He goes over the point of touchdown and circles around about 225 degrees to the landing point. Very much like a standard airplane landing pattern.
Without an engine.
Columbia, you're getting
Without
ready
an
to start
engine.
the big sweeping turn into the runway.
Truth as a tally. Roger,
Chase tally means the chase airplane has him in sight.
Altimeter 3009er.
Roger that.
So he sets his altimeter, and then he can measure his altitude above the touchdown point as he normally would in an
38,000
airplane.
feet. Range 19 miles.
Columbia, you're coming right around the hack, looking beautiful.
Base count aboard 30,000. Roger,
Is it 30,000 feet? The chaser joining up with
Control
him.
very smooth.
Now the chase airplane will look at the landing gear when it comes down and verify that it's
Columbia,
down
you're
for
really
him.
looking good. Right on the money. Right on the money.
And this is just sort of
And we're seeing 1.3 Gs coming around the hack.
Roger that.
And turning on the final, your winds on the surface are calm.
Back on the wind.
He's turning his final approach now to line up for a straight-in touchdown point.
Mach 0.6, range 13 miles, 22,000 feet.
He's got about 90 degrees to turn yet into the straight-in approach to the landing point.
Very smooth, speed brake at 40.
Now, that's from the airborne chase airplane.
Television picture now.
You're right on the glide slope, Columbia. Right on glide slope. Approaching center line, looking great.
This TV from the chase plane. $16,000 feet. Mach 15. Airspeed 271 knots.
Now you get a good view of the chase plane joining up.
Fido says it couldn't be any better.
Fido is the flight dynamics officer watching all the guidance information.
11,000 feet.
That's real good underneath.
Chase airplane looked him over and he looks good.
9,000. $280 knots.
Everything looks real good.
And John Young's probably done this part of the landing about 1,000 times by now.
So he could do it in his seat.
9,290.
So the chase airplane calls out the altitude and airspeed to confirm with the Columbia.
Okay. 2,500 feet.
Clear?
Very soon he'll start his pull-up and you'll see the gear come out as he approaches the lake bed. Now he's flaring or doing his round out. And the gear should come down about now.
They're coming.
And they're coming down.
3 down.
3 down, that's good.
50 feet.
Chase airplane
40.
calls out the altitude now
30.
above the touchdown
20.
point.
10. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. Touchdown.
Beautiful. Perfect
Gear
landing.
10 feet.
Now he'll call the nose gear out and John will let the nose down very slowly.
5. 4. 3. Touchdown. Look him out, skipper.
Perfect landing. Couldn't have been any better.
36 times round the Earth. And he comes in as if it was at Heathrow Airport.
Welcome home, Columbia. Beautiful, beautiful.
You'll have to take it up for hangar, Joe.
And as far as I can tell from the picture, it's just in
We're
good a
going to
shape
dust
as
it
when it
off
left.
first.
And a convoy will now meet them.
I'll tell you that. It was super.
Okay, convoy's on its way.
Convoy on. We'll stop on the Columbia. We'll stop.
But we won't see them for quite a bit, I think, what, 20 minutes or so. They've got to make some tests, make sure there's no gases hanging around, any danger of that kind.
That's true. They have to go through all the safing procedures and make sure there's no leakage of any particular lethal gases. But the crew is quite comfortable.
The official touchdown time, 2 days, 6 hours, 20 minutes, 52 seconds. 2 days, 6 hours, 20 minutes, 52 seconds.
And Columbia, Houston, we're estimating at least 26 more minutes on the ammonia. You're looking real good.
At this time, they're going through a number of procedures to power the ship down, turn off the electricity, and safe all the
Columbia's
systems.
main gear touched the lake bed. The flight director's instructions were prepare for exhilaration.
Houston, Columbia 18 shutdown is complete. Going on the doors.
Roger.
Convoy is proceeding toward Columbia at this time.
Those are marks on the dry lake bed in order to enable John Young to align himself as he comes down and make it a simulated runway, if you will. One of the reasons they land on the dry lake bed is because he can go almost in any direction and be safe, because it's a hard surface in all directions.
We'll just roll it and we'll talk over it, okay?
Well, now they're going to bring up, I think eventually, Jeff, a wind machine in order to blow away anything that might be flammable around.
That's right. This is the first line of protection on the ground, is to just blow away any gases that might be leaking. There are still some gases in the fuel reservoirs for the small orbiting maneuvering engines, and some ammonia, which is used as part of the cooling system. They've still got to cool down the shuttle quite a lot. And during re-entry, the crew are going to get out in about 45 minutes. During re-entry, apart from those chase planes, there was another aircraft up there taking pictures, and it had a special infrared surveillance camera on board, and its purpose was to have a good look at the underside of the orbiter as she came down, and just to see how much heat there was on those tiles, and this will help for further research to see if the protection system can be improved for later flights.
Of course, Dave...
Columbia, this is Convoy 1. How do you read?
Well, that's the convoy on the way. People are going to say, why don't they have any engines? Why have they got to bring it in just like a glider? Shouldn't they have a jet engine or something?
Well, no. As you can see, they really don't need an engine, and it takes extra weight to carry that into orbit. And since the early days of the rocket airplanes, such as the X-1 and X-15, utilize essentially the same method or technique, why NASA had a great deal of confidence in being able to recover and land a glider such as this. And as you can see, it worked.
It certainly worked. Came in on time.
Came in on time and precisely on the right flight path.
Call until we verify the valves. We'll get right back to you.
Roger that. You guys making a call. I'm just telling you.
Okay, thank you, Crip.
I think that vehicle on the left in front of the shuttle is a sniffer device. It's actually sniffing the air to see if there are any traces of dangerous gases around.
Ohms RCS safing is complete.
They've just safed the rocket engines on board. They've made them safe so that they won't leak or fire.
And here comes everybody.
And these men are wearing what are called scape suits.
Well, while they check out the Columbia, just to make sure that everything is all right, and it'll be 40 minutes or more before the crew come out. Norman Rees has a word for us from America. Norman?
Alastair, there is amazing satisfaction here at this landing, as you can imagine. I imagine many a British Airways captain looking in at those pictures who might be coming on a routine flight from Paris to London would be proud of that landing. I think what's significant about it is that there have been so few problems with the shuttle during its time in orbit and during the landing, that what the Americans have proved here is they have a vehicle that can be very quickly turned around and sent back into space once again. And we are on the verge in a new era of space, as the Americans would say. It's now changed from an era of space exploration to space exploitation. This shuttle, this machine, this magnificent thing has done everything that's been asked of it, and I think done it with considerable style. And as for Commander John Young, I think amazing congratulations on what looked to be a copybook landing. Alastair?
Well, Norman, I'm sure the man who made the tiles and the men who stuck them on are pretty relieved now.
Absolutely, Alastair.
Thank you, Norman.
They can come and...
Well, Dave, there are 3 more shuttles coming along, and when would you think? I mean, if those tiles are in place underneath, when do you think Columbia will fly again?
Well, the plan is to fly in about 5 months, but that always allows a period of time to analyze potential problems. And therefore, with no problems, I guess I would have to anticipate an earlier flight, earlier than 5 months from now.
Well, it must seem very sophisticated to you. You had to come down in the sea.
Yes, we had to come down on parachutes and in the sea, and as a pilot, I think John Young has the advantage over all that. It's much more comfortable to land your own airplane if you're a pilot.
Control, once the sniffing team completes their job, big units, big purge and air conditioning units will be brought in and attached to Columbia for ground cooling.
They'd like to do a station break in the next 2 minutes. I'm sorry? Like to do a station break in the next...
Convoy commander reports the assessment going very well. They haven't found anything out of order yet.
We're going to a station break and come back and do the action. Very good.
Well, they don't have to go through customs or anything. Well, Dave, that's been a real success. Even when the computers didn't work, you were still confident.
Well, I think with the people working that program and the professionalism that's been shown all the way that we have confidence in our people, and that's what really makes it work. The total team makes it work.
And all done out in the open.
All done out in the open for everybody to see. So I think you can have confidence that this system is now proven. 3 more development flights and will be in business, as Norman Rees said, exploiting space.
Thank you very much. So Columbia has landed to fly again. And as it rose in noise and vibration and fire, so it came in quietly, almost peacefully. So we've seen a bit of the future, and it seems to work. More details, and we hope a look at Young and Crippen in the news at 10. Good evening.
Airspeed 271 knots.
That's real good underneath. Three, 2, 1, touchdown. Those gears, 10 feet. 5, 4, 3, touchdown. Look above, skipper.